Hi, it's John Voot and today's lesson is on Gold Lion by Yeah Yeah Yeahs from the Trinity College London Drums Initial Rock and Pop syllabus. So looking at the sheet music, we can see above the first bar it says rock, which is a description of the style. Okay, so it's telling us it's a rock song, a very well-known rock song as well. And next to that, it's got a crotchet equals 80. So that tells you the tempo is 80 beats per minute, and a beat is a crotchet. Okay, so we've got 80 crotchets per minute. And it also tells you next to that you've got 2 bars of counting. So before the backing track plays, you'll hear a counting of 2 bars, which obviously sets the tempo. Okay, that's what a counting does. Because obviously without that, the band could come in and play at different tempos. So the counting just sets the tempo for everyone. So you get to hear that for 2 bars. So as you're listening to that counting, just really feel the tempo to make sure when you start playing that first bar, it's right in time with the tempo and you don't kind of rushing or like come in too slow and you have to sort of catch up, all right? And we need to make sure we really feel that tempo with the counting and then we come straight in. Okay, so if we look at the first bar, at the start of the bar, you've got your clef, okay? That's your percussion clef, which tells you it's drum notation. And then next to that, you've got time signature. Another important bit of information. So obviously that top number of the time signature is 4. So that tells you you've got 4 beats in your bar, which is very common. And then the bottom number is also a 4, which tells you a beat is a quarter note or a crotchet. Okay, so remember quarter notes and crotchets are the same thing. So just to go through those notes again, because I don't want to sort of mention both ways to say notes because it gets a bit confusing. So for this piece, we've got a crotchet, which is also known as a quarter note. We've got quavers, which are also known as eighth notes. We've got semiquavers, which are also known as 16th notes. And I believe that's it in terms of notation. Okay, so you're going to hear me say the British names, which are crotchets, quavers, and semiquavers. And the American ones, obviously, you can just kind of change if you're more used to that. Okay, so I won't sort of say both. So coming to the first set of notes in the first bar, we've got 2 quavers, a crotchet, 2 quavers, and a crotchet. So just to break the rhythm down initially, we've got 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so that's the rhythm of the bar, and then we just need to look at the orchestration, which is where to play that rhythm. So the first 2 quavers on the first beat, so on the 1, so your 1 and, we've got 2 floor toms. So as you can see, the note heads are in that third space down, okay, which is the floor tom space. So you've got 2 floor tom quavers, so we've got 1 and, we're going to play with the right hand on the floor tom. And then your crotchet is on the snare. So you see how the stem is pointing downwards. That tells you that the note head has moved up, okay, so it's in the second space now. So remember the top 2 spaces that the stem points down and the bottom 2 spaces the stem will point up. Okay, so it just sort of makes it easier to read. So as that stem points down, it tells you, oh, okay, the note head must have changed height there. So it tells you that the note or drum or cymbal to play on is different. Okay, so obviously that's a subtle difference to look at. So obviously if that stem direction didn't change, you might sort of not notice that change of drum. Okay, so it's just another way to sort of help you see that. So we've got 2 quavers here on the floor tom, and then we've got a crotchet on the snare. So the rhythm will be 1 and 2. So you're going to go right, right, left. Okay, and then for 3 and 4, you've got the same thing. So you've got 1 and 2, 3 and 4. So that's your groove there, very common sort of rock groove. And you're also going to play that for the second bar as well. So the second bar is the same as the first bar. So you're just going to play 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Okay? So that's the first line of the piece. And if you look under the first bar, you can see an F. Okay? So that's your dynamic. That's how loudly or quietly you need to play this. So F is short for forte, which means loud. So you've got to come in loud with this piece. Okay? So really bring the energy. This song has a lot of energy in it, and the drums really produce a lot of that energy. So as the drummer, you really need to come in strong, right? Really set that energy level so everyone feels it when they listen to it. So you need that 1 and 2 straight in, okay? Nice and strong. So what we're going to do, just to get used to that groove, we're going to play it 4 times in time with the metronome set at the song tempo, which is 80 beats per minute. Okay, so let's try that groove 4 times through with a metronome. So that's the top line, and when you come to the end of the top line, you can see there's a double bar line. Okay, so that tells you that music's then going to change. So it sort of gives you a heads up that, okay, when you go on now, there's going to be a change. And when we go into the second line, we can see there's a box there that says verse above the first bar on the second line. So that tells you we're now into the verse. So that double bar line at the end of the first line tells you that we're changing, we're changing section of the song. So that first line, that first groove was like the intro, and now we're changing into the verse. So for the verse, we've got a groove, we've got the same rhythm, okay, we're just playing it on slightly different drums. So you've got a top rhythm and a bottom rhythm. So the top rhythm is just quavers, so you're going to play quavers on the hi-hats. We just got this 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the bottom rhythm is the same rhythm you had in the top line, which is 1 and 2, 3 and 4. But now instead of playing this floor tom, snare, floor tom, snare, you've got the right hand playing over here, so you're going to play that floor tom rhythm on the bass drum now. Okay, so you've got bass, bass, snare, whilst playing these quavers here with the hi-hat. Okay, so we're going to try that groove for 4 bars in time with the metronome just to get a hold of that groove. So looking at the second line, so we just played the groove in the first bar, and looking at the second bar, we've got a 1 bar repeat there. Then the third bar, we've got another 1 bar repeat, and then the fourth bar, we've got another 1 bar repeat. And you see there's a little 4 written in brackets above the fourth bar. So that just helps you keep count of how many times you've played the groove. Okay, so if you don't want to sort of read through each repeat individually, you can just see, okay, there's a 4 there, so I need to play that groove 4 times to get to that at the end of that line. All right, so that's the second line. Playing that groove for 4 bars, and then going to line 3, you've got the same groove again. Okay, you've got a repeat and another repeat, so you play the groove 3 times for line 3, and then in bar 4 on the third line, you've got a slight change. So the groove's pretty much the same. All you're going to be doing is adding another snare drum at the end of the bar. Okay, so you got the same thing going on with the top rhythm. You've got those quavers on the hi-hat, but underneath now you've got 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. Okay, so you've got bass, bass, snare, bass, bass, snare, snare. So you've got that extra snare on the and of 4. Okay, so we're just going to try that bar just to get used to that extra snare, putting that in. So we're just going to play that 4th bar. So we're on line 3, we're going to play bar 4, and we're going to play bar 4 4 times, all right? We're just going to try that with a metronome. Let's give that a go. So now we're going to try to play the whole of line 3. So we've got 3 bars of our main groove, and then we've got a little change up on the 4th bar. Okay, so let's try the whole of line 3. And now we'll try and put that all together. So we're going to go right from the top. So we're going to play our 2-bar intro, and then we've got an 8-bar verse. So what we really need to practice and get down is that transition from the first groove that you play in the intro on the floor tom, and then we need a nice smooth transition into the groove where you switch to the hi-hat. So remember that rhythm's the same here. You've got this 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and then you're playing that same rhythm on the kick and snare once the verse comes in. Okay, so make sure when you transition from the intro groove into the verse groove those 1 and 2, 3 and 4 stay nice and consistent, all right? Consistently spaced. So we don't want to kind of speed it up or anything. We need to make sure it's really solid. So we're going to try the top line, going into the second line, and then the third line as well. So we're going to play the intro bars and then the whole of the verse. So now we're going to try and play those 3 lines in time with the backing track. So remember, you've got a 2-bar count in. So when you hear the count in, you'll hear 2 bars. The first bar will be 1, 3, and then the second bar you'll hear 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and then we're going to start playing. So remember, when you hear that count in, it's not just like numbers that are counting you in to start playing. It's giving you information. It's giving you the tempo of the music. So make sure you listen to it, internalize it, make sure you can feel that tempo, so when you come in, you're right in time, okay? And make sure you listen to the other instruments to make sure you're really locked in with them and everyone's playing at the same tempo, okay? It's really important. All right, so let's give those 3 lines a try. Make sure that transition from the intro groove into the verse groove is really smooth, and make sure you're playing at the right dynamics. Remember, we're playing forte, which is loud, so we want to hear that. Lots of energy. All right, so let's give it a try. So now we come on to line 4. So if you look at the start of line 4, you can see the bar number is bar 11. And we've got chorus written above the bar. So now you know you're into the chorus. And if you look at the previous bar that we finished on last time, you can see that double bar line again, which is telling you there's going to be a musical change in the next bar. So now we come to the chorus. The music's going to change a bit, which means what we play is probably going to change as well. So if we look at that first bar, so again, we're on the hi-hat, we're playing the same groove, but we've got another 1 beat change on the 4. So on the 4 of that first bar, you've got semi-quavers on the snare. So you've got 40 and a. So we've got that same groove we had. We've got bass, bass, snare, bass, bass. So in the 4, we're going to come down to play those semi-quavers. Okay, so you've got 1 and 2, 3 and 40 and a. And keep those quavers going on the hi-hat. Okay, so let's just try just that bar to get used to hitting those semi-quavers. Keep them nice and evenly spaced, and we'll try that bar for 4 bars, all right? So we'll loop it through. So then looking at bar 2 of the 4th line, that's our main groove we've gone through, okay? So that's the main groove of the song, and then bar 3 is the same groove at the end of the previous line, okay? Where we just play that extra snare drum, that quaver on the snare drum, the and of 4, okay? We got those 4 and on the snare drum. So we've gone through those 2 bars, so now we just need to practice putting them in the order. And just to complete that line, we've got a 1 bar repeat, you can see at the end of line 4, and that means repeat the previous bar, which is the one with the extra snare drum on the end of 4. Okay, so we've got our new bar with the semi-quavers, then we've got our main groove, and then we've got our little change up on the with the extra snare drum on the end of 4, and we play that bar again. Okay, so we've got 4 bars there. So let's try and play through that whole line, so line 4, in time with a metronome. And then moving on to line 5. So now we're at bar 15. So the first bar of line 5 is the same as the first bar of the previous line. So you've just got those semiquavers on the 4. So you've got that down, so we can play that. And then the next bar, we've got that extra snare drum groove again when you hit that 4 and. So again, we've gone through that one. And then we've got a 2-bar repeat. So that means repeat the previous 2 bars, all right? So we're just going to play those, the first bar with the semiquavers, the second bar with the extra quaver on the snare, and then we're going to play those 2 bars again, okay? And then that makes the whole of line 5. All right, so let's try line 5 in time with the metronome. And now we'll try the whole chorus, okay? So those 2 lines, so lines 4 and line 5. So you got 3 different bars of groove going on in different combinations, all right? So just make sure you're reading the music through because the 2 lines are very similar, but they are different, okay? So we'll try those 2 lines in time with the metronome. And now we'll try the chorus in time with the backing track. Okay, so the same thing as before, just make sure you're really solid when you come in and you're playing right in time with the other instruments. Control. Tell me what you saw, tell me what you saw. There was a crowd of seats, inside, outside. I must have done a dozen each. It was the height I threw, the weight, the shell was crushing you. I've been around a few. Tell me what you saw, I'll tell you what to. So now if you look at the end of line 5, you can see again we've got that double bar line, so the music's going to be changing again. So as we go into the bottom line, above the first bar you've got outro, so this is the outro groove to finish the song. We've got a different rhythm now, so again we've got 2 rhythms like we do in most grooves. The top rhythm is crotchet, so we've just got 1, 2, 3, 4 on the crash cymbal. So you can see how the X has gone up now. Onto the first ledger line, which is the crash cymbal. So you just got crotchets on the crash. Underneath that, you've got crotchets between the bass drum and the snare. So you alternate bass drum first on the 1. So you've got bass drum, snare, bass drum, snare. So putting those 2 rhythms together, you'll have bass drum and crash, snare drum and crash, bass drum and crash, snare drum and crash. Okay, so let's try that whole line because all we have to do here, so you see we've got a 1-bar repeat, another 1-bar repeat, another 1-bar repeat. So again, you've got that 4 in brackets to tell you we're playing that groove for 4 bars. So we'll play the groove 4 times, and then we finish with a crash on the last bar, on the 1. Okay, so the crash and bass drum. So we'll try that whole line. Okay, so 4 bars of the groove, and also the crash at the end to complete the song. We'll try that line in time with the metronome. So now we'll try the bottom 3 lines in time with the backing track. So we've got the chorus and the outro. Okay, so come in strong, keep those dynamics. So we're in forte for the whole of his songs. Keep it nice and loud, a lot of energy. And we'll try and just make sure we're playing nice and smooth and in time. Out of control. Tell me what you saw, tell me what you saw. It was So as you can see, after that bar, we've got a big, thick black line, which tells us it's the final bar. Okay, so that's the end of the piece. So what we've got to do now, we've got to play the whole song with a backing track. Okay, so you've got some nice changes. You've got an intro, you've got a verse, you've got a chorus, and you've got an outro. All right, so make sure that all them transitions from different parts are nice and smooth. The tempo is consistent for the whole song, and also the dynamics are consistent as well. So we're forte for the whole of this song. So make sure you don't go up or down in either tempo or dynamic, okay? So let's give it a go from the top and play it with some fun, with some energy. Enjoy it. Right, let's give it a try. So that's the whole of the song. So remember, when you practice through the parts, spend some time making sure the parts sound nice and smooth, evenly spaced, just how you want them to sound before you move on to playing it with the track, okay? Don't rush yourself. Really spend the time sort of perfecting your craft at this early stage of your drumming. And remember, if the song tempo is too fast at the minute for you, just slow the tempo down for the parts, all right? So bring them right down, maybe start at 50 or 60 BPM, and really dial in that coordination and make sure you get those rhythms nice and smooth, okay? So bring the tempos down, slowly increase them as you get comfortable with the parts until you get to the song tempo. And obviously once you're there and everything's sounding consistent and smooth, try it with the track then, okay? So just don't rush yourself. I know it's exciting to play with the music, but the important part is making sure it sounds good, okay? We don't want to be sort of scruffy and tempos changing and notes are out of time. All right, so make sure you've got it down first, put it with the music, be patient with yourself, have some fun, and we'll see you in the next lesson.